We are now live.
Okay. Do we have everybody yet, Andrew?
Yes, sir, with the exception of Ms. Iglesias.
Okay, Dr. Calaviz, Mary said she was going to be joining, right?
No, she is not.
She is not?
Yes, sir. No.
Okay, so we have everybody else?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, then let's go ahead and start. All right, I call this meeting to order. This is a special board meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Canutillo Independent School District. Today is July 16th, 2020. The time is, where's my clock? 9:04, is that correct? 9:02, 9:03, all right. 9:03 a.m. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. We do have a quorum of the board. And on March 16th, Governor Greg Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Ken Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meetings in response to the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certify the following. Notice that this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by a telephone call and internet access. We are meeting by use of both telephone conference call, online access, and through the use of an email link for questions. If a member of the public submitted written questions in advance, the board president or a member of the administration will read the comments into the record before or during the board's consideration of that item. If you would like to provide comment at a future meeting conducted by video conference or telephone call, please follow instructions on the meeting notice. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board adopted procedures in the extent practicable. An audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. We apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate through these conditions. And if you have any questions about the suspended laws, please call the Office of the Attorney General at 888-672-6787 or by email at toma@oag.texas.gov. Okay, that takes care of the preliminary. All right, Sonia, would you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Brigham,
Present.
Mr. Coronado,
Here?
Mr. Payan, Mr. Payan,
I know I
I
saw
can't-
him earlier.
I can't hear him, but I know he said he's here and I see him. Mr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Mrs. Searles,
Here.
Mrs. Trout,
Present.
Mrs. Iglesias,
Mrs. Iglesias will not be able to join us today at the meeting.
thank you.
All right, that takes us to the next agenda item.
Yes, sir. Item 2, Board of Trustee Business, a discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the 2020-2021 academic school calendar. Dr. Galaviz.
All right. Dr. Glavis.
Sir, you're on mute.
Does he know we can't hear him?
I'm sorry, Ms. Rocha?
Now we could hear you.
There we go.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm at Davenport. I'm looking in these classrooms, trying to figure out how we're going to social distance and keeping these kids safe.
I have-
Okay, Dr. G. We are in the discussion and possible action for approval of a 2020-2021 academic school calendar. Can you tell us, Dr. G?
So on our original school calendar on August 3rd, to start August 3rd, we were already in place to go remote until Labor Day, given the pandemic.
Mhm.
And then on the week of July 4th week, is it July 5th, July 7th, the city ordered met with the superintendents, then came out formally July 9th to say schools will no longer have face-to-face instruction till after Labor Day. So with that, then the commissioner came out July 9th saying that he was only going to fund us for 3 weeks of remote instruction at the beginning. 2 weeks unfunded. And as you can tell, many of our big superintendents adjusted their calendar, EPISD and Socorro, till August 17th. I think yesterday Sled already mentioned it officially. So because of funding and also because of the increase in spikes, we moved to August 17th in order to, thank you. Ms. Rocha, are you on? Because I know you have those documents that you said that you gave to DAC yesterday. So given that, then on this Tuesday, as you can tell, I sent you the governor's interview from the Texas Tribune. He's saying, no, we will fund you as long as you're under a state, a citywide shutdown by the health department. So again, we go back and forth. And again, to me, in my opinion, is just, again, a political battle between when to start, how we're going to be funded. So what we did is, again, with the speed of the team, we met Monday with Ms. Carrasco, PIO, Ms. Pekarsky, Ms. Rocha, and we came up with this calendar starting on the 17th. So, Ms. Rocha, can you go over the particulars?
Starting August the 17th.
Dr. G, she has not participated yet. As soon as she gets on, we'll move her in.
Okay, as you can tell from the original calendar, we took out that second week in October.
Okay.
To give some, and so instead of this calendar allows us 5 extra days,
Okay.
and we still end on the 8th.
The 8th of June, sir?
June,
Yes,
we move it up to June the 8th.
and we're still in line with our extended year, as you can tell in March, so we can still do tutoring. We're still aligned with EPISD, and that's, as you know, Ms. Brigham, we always try to stay in line with, since we share a lot of commonalities with EPISDs, teachers, students.
Right. I have a question for you,
Oh.
Dr. Galvez.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you, I thank you for, sharing the calendar. And then, like you said, in October, we took out that extra week. I guess my question to you, sir, is now we have embedded 5 days, as you just said, but I guess, I mean, it's all at the, I'm not going to say, it's all dependent upon the City of El Paso Health Department. So if the City of El Paso Health Department comes back, sir, and says, we cannot have face-to-face, will that affect the calendar, do you think, or do you think it will just be remote learning? I'm looking in June or any other time you have embedded. What's
No,
your,
as long as if the city closes, shuts us down,
Yes, sir.
then we can have remote learning. We'll be funded for remote learning. If we decide ourselves, for example, I'm at Davenport, we need to shut down Davenport, God forbid, then that's when those 3 weeks come in play.
Okay, and
Days come in
Oh,
play.
okay.
and Dr. Galvez, one of the things, and I'm sure you're reading and Ms. Roach is reading all this stuff. I know Denver schools was saying, if you have but I'm sure we have a contingency if one kid, once we get back to face, if one kid gets COVID, we have a protocol. And if 4 kids get COVID in the classroom, now this of course is in another state, that they close down the school. Do you have protocols like that set up, sir?
Yes, ma'am. We've been
Thank you, sir.
working with the health department in order to
Great.
set things in place.
Well, Lord, I think they're doing the best they can. And I think, talk about a fluid situation. I move that we approve this calendar.
I have a question first.
Oh,
Yes,
Dr.
before I-
Through the
before I-
chair, please.
Yes, just a second, Lori. Before we entertain any motions, let that administration present completely, and then if you have questions, and then I'll entertain a motion.
Exactly.
absolutely. Thank
All
you.
right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think I mean, you've seen the calendar, like, it's fluid. What we know today may change tomorrow, but again, we want to stay in line with EPIC. We want to make sure that we're funded because we have to be able to pay for this. So I'm okay with the question.
All right.
Through the chair.
Ms. Earl?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Dr. Galavis, if I'm not mistaken, the governor has already said and rescinded that he wouldn't pay. They've already told us we will start paying. Isn't that correct? That we will fund you even if you started on August the 3rd.
Yes, but as long as we're
Yes.
under a city,
But we
Ordinance.
weren't going to ever start face to face. We were just going to start remotely, correct, on August the 3rd. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
the reason you want to go with August the 17th is to stay in stride with the other school districts. It has nothing to do with the funding, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
That's what, okay, thank you. So the governor has said everything's good with the funding, and we are just choosing to stay in line with the other school districts for the continuity.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Okay. I do have a question, Mr. Chair.
I asked for Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Proud, and then I'll let you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Dr. G, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I do understand that we're going to start instruction remotely August 3rd and then face-to-face on August the 17th.
Yeah.
Can you please repeat it, Ms. Marnie?
Yes,
Clarify this. Thank you.
yes, sir. No, we're going to start remote August 17th, and then we will offer the face-to-face option September 8th after Labor Day. At that time, the city and the county expire the health that they've given us, and they may choose to extend it, but at that time, it will expire, and the governor says we will not be, or TEA says we will not be covered if we don't offer a 5-day face-to-face option. And so at this point, September 8th, unless something changes, we will be opening the doors for parents that do want to send their kids.
Okay, and remotely, we start on August the 17th. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, August 17th.
Thank you so much. I just want to clarify the point. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
Steve, is Steve on here?
Is there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Steve, in regards to the technicality of why we have this agenda item, the governor, not the governor, the commissioner first had said was only going to allow us 3 weeks. The question that I have, if we were to still start, would that allow us to do the 5 weeks paid for by the state, or that order just still addresses 3 weeks and then moving forward?
Well, what's the projected start date?
I'm saying the projected start date is July the 17th, but we were
Okay.
looking at starting August the 3rd.
No, August the 17th, not July the 17th.
No, July the 17th. But we were supposed to start
August
July the 3rd.
August.
August 17th. Assuming the projected start date now is August 17th, we have the 3-week run out period. And the idea behind that would be that it was safe. We expect TEA to issue new guidelines. They said they were going to be out yesterday or today. that will address the issues regarding the local orders and what they control and how we can use them. Right now, I think the plan is to use the 3 weeks that was allowed, and then once Labor Day rolls around, go back into opening. But if that changes and there's another local order, we can continue to use remote learning. That's my understanding.
And then Dr. Galavis,
Yes, sir.
I believe certain districts that actually adjusted, and I think Isleta was one watching the news the other day. They actually took that week away in October and then included a week at the end of the year. And your recommendation is to include it within the 5 days that we have built in the calendar?
Yes.
Yes, we originally had 2 weeks off in November, or 2 weeks in November for the extended school year and intercession. And so we took off the extended school year to give us a week. And the original calendar had 2 weeks in its pocket of days. So
Okay.
we're going to reduce that to 1 week. So we'll have 1 week in our pocket. And the way the calendar is now, we'll go 5 weeks in September 8th, then have a break in October, then 5 more weeks, then we'll have Thanksgiving, and then 3 more weeks. So it gives us a lot of time to be closed and not having to have students for long periods of time. It would just be 5 weeks from September 8th to October, then another 5 weeks to Thanksgiving, and then another 3 weeks until Christmas. But again, depending on what the guidance is about school closures when there are cases, we may have to dig in some more days.
How many weeks are within the grading period?
All the weeks will work out to 9 weeks except the first week. The first week will be 8 weeks. Then every other period will be a 9-week grading period. But the first one will not have the full 9 weeks.
So let's say if a parent under the current TA guidelines, my understanding is we would go 3 weeks with the remote learning. And if they chose between face-to-face or remote, if they chose remote, then they would stay remote till the end of the grading period. If they chose face-to-face, then they would be able to utilize 5 weeks, and then that's when they can transition back and forth from remote to face-to-face. Is that my understanding correct?
Yes, it is correct. And we see if parents, the transition from face-to-face to remote being fairly quickly, if a parent or there's a case to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable, I'll go to remote. The reason though for the 9 weeks is the other way around. Let's say we have an abundance of people then wanting to go back to face-to-face, then it's going to be hard for us to maintain that social distancing. Right now, we're thinking maybe half of the kids will be coming back face-to-face. So this way, we have some data to know that if they're going to come back, because then we need to figure out what we're going to do if a classroom exceeds 12 students. At this point, the commissioner has said, he's not putting any class sizes. He said they can run. He's not, they're free to be as large as they need to be. But we want to practice social distancing, and we want to keep it under 12 people in the classroom.
In the classroom.
That's why
Including the teacher. I'm sorry, including the teacher.
Yes, ma'am, if we can. And the idea would be then after 9 weeks, we can be able to better prepare to say if more people want to come back face-to-face, what we need to do to maintain social distancing.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on, Ms. Brigham. Let me see if somebody else wants to.
I think
Absolutely.
just a reason, and I'll add on the COVID-19 update in regards to the way
Please.
TA has handled this situation. Frustrates me as an elected official trying to make decisions for our school district, and I think we need to address that in regards to how they've addressed it. So that's one issue, but I think being able to communicate that to our community in regards to what options they have is important as well. So
I agree.
second question. So that's all I have for right now, Mr. Chair.
All right. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Payan.
Dr. Galavis, a question. have you addressed this issue as far as the teachers that are going to be coming back? If say a number of them say, you know what, that group that is susceptible to coming down with something, or I feel threatened by the coronavirus and all of that. Have we looked at that as to how we're going to address that if some of them just can't come back?
Question.
Mr. Payan, can I address that at the third item? Because the third item talks about opening, because this deals
Okay.
just with the calendar. Because I think that's an excellent question. I just want to talk about the calendar since this item talks about.
Now, my other question is I don't know, which other districts are going totally remote?
Well, they all have to. All the districts in this region have to go remote until after Labor Day.
Are
Because
there any
the-
of them going remote full time?
We don't have that option.
No.
Okay. That's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Payan. Anybody else? Ms. Brigham, you
Oh.
wanted to say something?
You know, sir, I'm going to wait until what Dr. Galvez said. I'll wait till item number 3, sir.
All right,
Board President, there is a comment from the community whenever you'd like to address that.
go ahead and read that.
Yes, sir. This is from Teresa Harness. EPISD and now ISD have announced that they will be delaying school start dates from August the 3rd to the 17th. I think this would be better because it will allow teachers more time to plan and understand the new look and feel of distance learning. It will also be helpful for families that have children that attend different districts. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, let me give you my take. Anybody else from the board? Let me give you my take. I think this is a big problem we have with our government, and specifically DEA and our governor.
Yep.
And you know, they've delayed this all this time and they haven't given us any guide, and now they're giving us no option, that we've got to go back, period, on, you know, everybody in the classroom. That's just unacceptable.
Exactly.
I think our kids need to come back to school, but this all or nothing plan that they've you know, basically bestowed on us is just not acceptable. Some of the parents, we want to send their kids back, some not. We should have the option of being able to safely put kids with social distancing in the classrooms, but not, it's either full classroom, or if the health department says close it, then we close it all. That just doesn't work. I don't see what kind of a plan that is. And what if, you know, one of our the health department says, nope, you know, no, we're going to open and we're going to send everybody back because that's what we have to offer to everybody.
Right.
That just doesn't cut it. That doesn't cut it. That's unacceptable. And what I fear is that we may be able to go back under certain circumstances to face, but here's the quandary: is that the health department may say, look, if I don't do this, you know, for me it's going to be all or nothing. I don't think that the health department's going to say, you know what, no, schools only half of the students can go. I don't think the health department's going to do that. They're going to be in an all or nothing. And they might err on the side of, okay, well, we could probably open up with half the students in social distancing, but based on what I know, I'm not going to let anybody go back. Now we don't have that option.
Mm-mm.
And the other option is we may be able to go back, and we may be able not to go back, but some of the health department is going to say, nope, because of pressure from the governor and our TEA commissioner going to say, nope, you all go back, which it sounds that's really what's happening come September 8th.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not acceptable. And not only that, we haven't taken into account, and we'll discuss the issue about the teachers. I mean, I have heard of a study that 25% of the teachers nationwide would be at high risk if they get COVID. What's going to happen with that if we have mandated everybody go back face-to-face and a quarter of our teachers don't show up? because they're going to claim I'm high risk. I need an adjustment under ADA.
Right?
What are we going to do? This is not a plan that the state has put in place. And I think it's high time that we start to do something about it. We can't just sit back, write letters and do this or do that.
We need to take action. Yeah.
This is unacceptable from the state.
Can we approve can we get with the calendar?
Sure. Well, that's
Second.
parts of what that has to do with the calendar, but yeah, I'm all for it. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move that we
Second.
approve the calendar presented to us by administration.
And I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on agenda item 2A. Any further discussion from the board? If not, Sonia, poll the board.
Yes, sir. Ms. Brigham,
Yes.
Mr. Coronado,
Yes?
Mr. Payan,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Searles,
Yes.
and Mrs. Trout.
Yes?
Motion passes.
All right, next agenda item, Sonia.
Yes, sir. Item B, discussion and possible action to create and enter an MOU with other districts for the use of technological devices to support community educational needs. Dr. Galaviz.
All right. Here we go. Board, I was in a meeting with the superintendents and the city when the city told us that they were going to mandate close down of our school systems. And our former associate sup, Dr. Vigil in Fabens, was commenting that she could not do remote she had no devices or lack of devices. So she was handing out packets in April and May, and her teachers, and again, as you know, packets, having a kid do a packet, that's not teaching. And so she requested since we were doing our one-to-one, could we, lend her or let her borrow or just give her the devices that we're not using so they don't become storage. And again, I think it's a great opportunity to show solidarity amongst the region, because again, I've always said if one fails, they all fail. If one succeeds, we all succeed. So again, it's just to help out her and the other smaller districts during this time of the pandemic.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Trout.
Dr. Galaviz, how many computers we're talking about?
For Dr. Vigil?
I don't know which other districts.
How many do we have?
No. How many devices we're talking about? How many districts we're going to benefit?
Well, it depends. Right now we have San Elizario, Sierra Blanca that have reached out about 1,500 between just those three. I know Dr. Rico's on. I know Dr. Rico says if we were to sell them, we'd probably $3 to $5 per device. I'm one, hey, we're not using it. Let's just help out another district. So Dr. Rico, go ahead.
Dr. Rico, are you there? Well, the only comment that I need to make, for example, the last time that we approved the computers, we stated what we're going to do with the leftovers. Of course, that totally agree to benefit someone else, but first I would like to benefit our district. I would like to be sure that our kids in Canutillo are served. And we said the leftover computers, we were going to give adult classes for families. Even, is this taken in consideration already? For adults or people that they would like to have a computer? Because remember, these are Canutillo district taxes that we're going to give to someone away or lend it. If we lend those computers, my question is, if they give it back to us, maybe they're gonna come with viruses or download viruses, then we need to apply more money to clean them. If we would like to sell them, can we sell those to our parents first to serve our Canutillo community first? And
I can,
yes, of course, a lot of parents, they're making sacrifices to purchase computers for themselves as well in order to help the kids.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'd like to know, how can we help our community first? Of course, I'm totally agree to serve someone else, but remember, those are taxes that are taxpayers' money invested. So it belongs to our taxpayers' money. So what are we gonna do?
Yes, President Coronado, Superintendent Galaviz, and members of the board, a pleasure to be here before you. And you're absolutely right, Ms. Trout. So we have a fleet that we send out to students. And remember, back in March, we searched every square inch of the district to try and find something that turned on to send to our homes. A lot of these were very old devices. A lot of these were devices that kids could not use efficiently because we could no longer do it remotely, do an update remotely. So of those, give or take about 4,000 devices, about half of that fleet, what we would determine to be unusable to the district. They have reached end of life, and we would have put up for a surplus sale. So those are the ones that Dr. Galaviz is talking about. It does not affect our Chromebooks. We have about 2,000 Chromebooks in the district that we are going to repurpose and then use in different purposes for us. And we also have some other newer laptops that are in the hands of our teachers right now. Those are not the ones we are discussing here. We're discussing just lending a helping hand to the school districts with the ones that would have been surplus. Just to give you an idea of what's going on, TEA right now, and then we might come back to you in some future meetings to let you know that TEA might subsidize half of our purchase for computers. However,
Yes.
the backlog in production has been so great that Dell is now saying, well, we're sending out Chromebooks to districts all across the country in February of 2021. We're sending laptops in January of 2021. The newest Apple orders that we were to have placed our Apple order today, our receipt date would be anywhere from November to December of 2020. So everybody is in a world of hurt that way. The TEA is working on a deal right now to try and pressure some of these production chains to have stuff hopefully by October. So that's why Dr. Galaviz is discussing this item, because even with all the money in the world, all those other school districts could not get a device in kids' hands previous to, optimistically speaking, by our commissioner. We were at a Texas chief technology officer session yesterday, and they're talking optimistically mid-October.
Now, I do understand. I think I did discuss this item with you before, but I just wanted to know, you said, and you stated the last time, that leftover items that we're going to sell them back to our students for $25. Now you're selling to another district for $3 or $4, and our kids are going to have to pay $25. How is that? I mean, how can we benefit our families here in Canutillo? I'm totally agree, like I said and stated from the beginning, that we need to be a helping hand, definitely. But those are taxes that were being paid with those computers. And those computers either, or we sell it and we get the money back to our taxpayers, or we benefit our taxpayers. Because I don't think it's fair to sell those computers to our students for $25 when we give it away to another, or lend it, or sell it to another district for $3 or $4. Why don't we benefit our kids or families at home here in our district first?
And we will. Remember that we have, within those 4,000, you have a plethora of different things, Ms. Trout. You might have an HP computer that was produced in 2005 and has been used for 15 years. And you also might have Chromebooks that we purchased last year, right? So we're going to take care of our families and our students first, sure, right? Because we also have to have a reserve for our kiddos, for the district. And we also have to take care of our paraprofessionals. We also have to take care of our parents. Mm-hmm. I think what we're talking about is the excess, right? So at every go around, we do have some excess, right? What's left on the edge of our fields, pretty much. And
okay, we're talking about excess computers. So
let me
be sure that let me finish, please.
Ms. Trout, hold on, let him finish. Let him finish.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Rico.
Yeah, I know for us, we're looking at devices that were already at end of life and that provide just the minimal capabilities for kids around the county to at least be able to log in. And keep in mind that for a lot of our kids, that was not a reality even with these machines. So we don't know if it will even serve that purpose. We're just trying to be noble in the sense of providing for what we have in excess.
Okay, what I was gonna say, for example, if we have enough computers, will be nice if we could sell them then and get some profit for this district. I mean, it's my point of view, right?
We're not in the business for.
Mr. Chair,
All right, hold on,
go
everybody.
ahead, Ms. Brigham.
No, I said not in the business. The
Hold
only
on.
thing is to recoup back some of the taxpayers' money that belongs to this district. Of course, we're not in the business, not even to sell lands and nothing. We are
Okay.
talking about the taxes that are coming out from this district and pay back to our taxpayers.
Yes.
That's it.
Hold on, Ms. Searles.
Hey,
Thank you.
Sergio,
Thank
can
you,
I,
Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Sergio,
Brown. Yes,
can I say something?
Steve, go ahead.
So Dr. Galavis and Dr. Rico contacted me about this issue. There are two things the board needs to decide regarding the equipment. You have two policies. You have CI local and CMD legal. The legal policy requires that the board decide how it wants to use excess or surplus instructional materials. These are technological instructional materials. It's technology equipment owned by the district used for instruction. The board is required to decide how you're going to dispose of that when the administration tells you it's no longer useful and it's no longer necessary, which is my understanding is what they're doing. They're saying, hey, we don't need these, we don't use these, they're excess. Okay. Once the board is told that, if you agree, then you can authorize the administration to dispose of it in an administrative manner. Now, there's one way to do that, to Ms. Trout's point, is to consider whether it has enough value to sell it. That's only sellable in an auction. So you would hold an auction. We've done it rarely with, it might be with trucks or vehicles or larger equipment where you may be able to actually auction it off and recoup enough money
Exactly.
to make the auction expenses worth it. Normally for this type of equipment, if it's got a $3 or $4 value
Right.
to the piece of
Surplus.
equipment, it's not worth auctioning off. The time, the effort, and the expense of an auction outpaces and outweighs the return on investment to the district. So if it is truly no longer necessary and not useful, and the value of it is so low that it is unuseful to sell, the administration can determine on its own how it wants to dispose of it. And the thought, I understand from talking to Dr. Galavis, was, well, there are other districts that are not in a financial position to even buy unusable equipment like this. And so donate it to them and let them make some use of it. We initially thought that we would want it back, that we would track it, that we would have the districts borrow it, enter an MOU, loan it to them, require them to have insurance and other items. But then I think Ms. Pekarsky and Dr. Rico got together and said, well, no, that is more of a headache to us. We don't even want it back. It's not useful at all. So if we're going to do this, it would be an MOU where we're donating it administratively to the other districts and let them use it. Obviously, that's up to the board. So you have two steps. One, agree that it's no longer useful, not technologically useful. You don't want it, you don't need it, and you can't sell it. If you agree with the administration on that, then the next step is to authorize Dr. Galavis to dispose of it administratively under CI local.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair,
or
Um,
Lori was first.
Mr. Rodriguez, I'll
I
take you
believe-
next, Ms. Searles.
I
Sure.
believe Lori was first. I'll let her go first.
you
Very
can
well.
go, Armando, I don't mind.
Just in regards to Steve, going back to what you said, one is I want to clarify because some of the money that we get for buying or purchasing these computers is federal and state. So it would be money that comes from taxpayers across the country as well as taxpayers across the state. And my concern here is I would, Dr. Rico, let me ask this first. In regards to utilizing these computers in the future, what is the intent? Like, is it worth it or is it not?
Here's the answer to Mr. Rodriguez. Because we have 4,000 of them out, we're gonna keep a certain proportionate amount, about half of those that are still within life and still good. The other 2,000 that Dr. G is talking about, no.
I don't want to go into details. I think that's for staff to come up with and utilize that. I do agree with Ms. Trout, and if there is some that we could probably utilize to give to our community as well, we could do that as well. But what I want to do is give you all the authority to do that under the guidance of which Steve gave.
Yeah.
And so, Steve, you're saying we would have to, first is Dr. Galavis and Dr. Rico, are you all stating what Steve said that we could utilize to go ahead and donate this? And then
I don't know what Steve said. All I want to do is help out another district to help kids. It's a very simple concept. This is when politics gets in. Yes, we're going to help our families, but it's very simple. You either want to help out kids in another neighboring district with our excess, and we start sharing and stop competing. That's what's wrong with this system called education. We compete all the time. We just want to help out other kids. That's it. We have excess. Talk to Dr. Rico. Yes, we're going to help our families. But again, stop politicizing this. It's a simple item. It really is.
Then going back to Steve, what is it that we have to do? We would have to approve administration's recommendation to call them, to deem them not useful to the district, so that way they could go ahead and give those to whoever they need, or what is?
Yeah, the board just needs to agree and accept that the administration is telling you that the property has no value. They have an obligation to report it to you because the policy requires it. It's equipment, it's technological instructional equipment that was acquired using district funds. So it doesn't mean that you have to hold on to it forever.
Right.
To Dr. Galavi's point, if you don't need it and you're not going to use it, how do you dispose of it? There are a couple of ways to do it. Auction it off. If the equipment has such low value that an auction doesn't make sense, why hold the auction?
Yeah.
You're going to lose money on that. So don't do it.
That's
The second
not
thing is just-
administration's recommendation, so let's just cut that one
Yeah.
out.
The second thing is to just throw it away, which why would you want to do that? Store it forever, or donate it to another district. And to help out in the current situation, that was the idea that the administration came up with, that it's could be useful for someone else, and donate it through an MOU. And so that's my understanding is a proposal. If you agree with that, then the district can do that, and Dr. Galavis can enter the MOU with the districts the administration chooses to donate it to.
My understanding, we don't need two separate motions. It would just be to, because earlier you had talked about we would have to approve the administration deeming it usable in the future for the district. Do we need that, or we just need to approve the MOU, or just approve administration's recommendation moving forward?
Just approve the recommendation of the administration to donate the technological devices that are being discussed. I don't know which ones they are. I mean, the administration, Dr. Rico knows, but you're authorizing them to say, okay, this set of equipment we're going to donate.
Yeah, that would be what they've already analyzed on. I don't want to get into details because that's not our role, like in regards to what is and what. I'm not a computer expert and I don't claim to be, but I'm just saying that. So the motion would be to approve administration's recommendation to donate those equipments to those districts and our community.
Yeah, the technological devices.
Okay.
Just before that, Mr. Chair, I just got a
I
small.
had a
Hold on,
question.
Ms. Trout. Hold on, Ms.
Oh,
Trout.
Wait, I got a question.
Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead, Lori.
Hold on, Ms. Trout. Are you
I'm
finished?
not done, and then
Rodriguez?
Mr. Rose. But no, I think I have a. So it would just be to approve the. Steve, can you say that again?
To approve the use of technological devices as recommended by the administration.
Okay,
Okay,
and I'll let other people speak before.
hold on.
I don't want to.
Are you done,
Yeah.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
All right, Ms.
Thank you,
Searles.
sir.
Ms. Searles.
So, did y'all get an inventory? I'm the only one that is missing an inventory of these items? Or did no one get an inventory?
Why would the board get an inventory of the items?
Well,
You get inventory of the books?
whenever we have surplus materials, we get an inventory. We sell the materials, I'd say 3 times a year. We have a sale to sell surplus materials. And an inventory comes with them. And all of those devices should be, I guess, keyed to the districts. You know, we have them all inventoried.
We can
I'd
give
like
you
to
an
see an
inventory.
Sure. I'd like to see an inventory of what you're
I'll
talking
count them
about.
personally myself.
And I don't think you have to, Dr. Galavis. I think we have that on a computer probably. We have a scanner. But this item is really vague too. I have had no idea that this is what we were going to do. Discussion and possible action and enter an MOU with other districts for the use of technological devices to support community educational needs. Why didn't it just say we want to donate this stuff to San Eli and Fabens? That's a problem to me. Our community did not know that this is what we're talking about. And I have a problem with that.
So you think our community would have a
I
problem
think,
with
no,
donating?
hang on, let me talk. Hold your questions
devices?
till the end.
Well, I'm trying
I
to,
think we need an inventory, and I have to trail on what Mrs. Trout said. It's not like we're the richest people on earth here. I totally agree with help our neighbors, but we need to make sure that the needs of our citizens are taken care of. I can tell you right off the bat, and each of you know this, I don't have a computer. I don't want one either, but I don't have a computer. I'm sure there's plenty of families here who don't have a computer, and they'd like one of these, even if they're only worth $3 or $4. Have we asked our community? Here's the sign-up list. If you want one of these, come get one. What's left over, then we'll give
Give it
those
away. Exactly.
to the other districts. But we need
Tell
to
you
reach
what,
out
this-
to our people first, and that
This
will
is
be, I have a problem with the item and the way it's written, and I have a problem with the process that is being put on here, that we should be more well informed about this, and our community should have an opportunity to get what they need first. And that's all I need to say.
All right, thank you, Ms. Searles.
Mr. Chair,
I
Anybody?
was next. I was
Mr.
next, I
Chair.
guess.
Ms. Trout, you've already spoken on this item. I'll
Okay, go
shift it
ahead.
to you.
I think we should just vote. Just
Yeah.
vote.
I'd
It's
like,
our recommendation and vote. It's not hard. If
Hold
you
on.
don't want to do it, if you don't want to help another district, don't help another district.
Dr. Galaviz, why that rush? Let us express. We have a,
Because the rush is that
let
we
us
have to get
express,
this
Dr.
out.
Galaviz,
to
please.
Okay,
Let us
all right,
express
both
our
of you.
concerns.
Let
You've
me go on.
expressed enough, Ms. Trout.
Sir, all that I need to know, if it's MOU is already written,
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair,
I'm gonna call order right now.
Thank you.
Ms. Brigham, you have the floor.
Dr. Rico,
Good morning.
good morning, sir. Just a clarification, we heard 1,500 devices, and then I heard
2,000.
Ms. Trout, will you please hold on?
Sure,
Ms.
sure.
Brigham has the floor, please. Don't interrupt, okay? Thank you.
Dr. Rico, first we said 1,500 devices, and those, I think what you said were going to be on surplus. And please correct me whenever I'm wrong. Then you said we had 4,000 devices, and then half those 4,000 would still be in use. So could you tell me how many items do you feel you have for surplus? That's my first question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Brigham. So what happened when COVID first hit is administration recommended every school to find every technological device that was on campus. A lot
Good
of them were computer cards that were in use. A lot of them were Chromebook cards that were in use, maintained by our MDM. Everything was perfectly fine. Some of them 1 or 2 years old. Those I can tell you an exact number because they're on our MDM and we manage them and they still have life. A lot of
Okay.
the other ones were, and I know you're aware, and a lot of the times as schools, we kind of put up technology away because we kind of think, if I don't have anything, I can always tap into these resources. So a lot of those we don't have an alive inventory, and I am sorry that we didn't provide that in advance. But when we started asking principals, myself included at that time, how many devices that you put out in the community, as we accounted for the devices that schools said put out into the community for student use, we were looking roughly at around 4,000. We actively manage only about half of those because the rest of them were in some storage room that obviously as an emergency hit, we took them out, sent them out to kids. A lot of them came back because they couldn't log on, they had the wrong charging cable. So they had issues, right? And then we can anticipate that because these, and it's a rough number, right? That 2,000 number that we cannot account for on our MDM, about half of the ones that went out. So those were so old that were maintained out of our live record. So we are currently in the process of picking up devices so that we can inventory them. I have to also be responsible to the community as to if there are extra devices that are needed. We also have to outfit our paraprofessionals that have not historically have had a device to help kids. And then most importantly too, we need to leave a fleet of newer Chromebooks in our inventories at school, because what happens if an Apple machine breaks, right? We can't leave a kid without a computer for 2 weeks while we fix it. So we need to be able to have a checkout system of new manageable devices that we can give to them. I am confident of saying that we have about 2,000 that we actively manage that way, that we still need and we still will use. But since campuses said they put out 4,000 of them, I can roughly say that maybe about 2,000 of them, and again, this is not with certainty. I can't certainly come up here and say these are unusable to the district because we haven't laid our hands on them. We're picking them up this and next week, and whatever is deemed as unusable, that's what we're talking about.
Okay, so Dr. Rico, this is like a preemptive. What you're saying is you put this agenda item on, which was not well worded, but you put this agenda item on in anticipation you were going to be doing this. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And also, the board, members of the board, one thing that I'm well aware of is excess devices in technology. When we have excess devices in technology, it's a burden to the district to house them, to put them up. I absolutely agree with what Ms. Trout was saying and what Ms. Searles was saying too. We, all the Chromebooks we've bought in the past couple of years, those need to remain in the district. It was a district decision to go to a different platform. That does not negate the others because we still have those using. But for the surplus, I'm talking the 1,500 to 2,000, which Dr. Rico just was saying, they are worth pennies on the dollar. And the only exception that I can see, Dr. Rico and Dr. Galavis, is we have some special ed computers that are standalone, that are old, but they still work and they still have those old archaic programs. And those would be, I would think you really need to look at those because we really need to make sure every one of us fed, even if they had 2 computers at home, one for just those programs. But I know for certainty that we dispose of so much technological equipment, and there's a graveyard in the technology graveyard in the central office that we don't get rid of because it's hard to get rid of. So, but I am a little perplexed because we don't know exactly what we're giving. I like the idea of giving whatever we can to the other districts, not to sacrifice anything that's going to our taxpayers. But if the district has 1,500 computers that are worth $3 to $5, and that's exactly all they go for. And if another district can use them, even if they only put on iStation, even if they only put on basic one program, they might be usable to another district. They will not be usable to us since we made that transition. So I see where the board is absolutely in a quandary because we don't have numbers. So Mr. Rodriguez, when you were stating your when your questions to the attorney about the item, could we put something in that item saying, just saying that we do get an inventory of what is going, we have to have an inventory of what's going.
I agree. I think I have the utmost confidence with Dr. Rico and some of the stuff, but I think we do need it in writing. Yeah.
How would you word that?
No, I would just to include an update in regards to what is what's currently on hand. In other words, of the inventory, to include an update of current and of the inventory. Just put it that way.
Okay, and the only thing is, I'd ask Dr. Galavis and Dr. Rico, could you look at the SPED ones? Because those are the only ones, because we were using archaic SPED computers when I was a principal. And the teacher said, no, they still work and they're still good for one kid. So could you look at those computers with a little bit of extra eye to make sure that our kids could not use them?
Yes, ma'am. And the technology graveyard is at CMS in the warehouse.
Okay, well, I knew that we had a graveyard. And school board members, all I can tell you is I've been there. And I understand everybody's frustration. And I understand, Miss Trout, you said it eloquently, you know, for the taxpayers. We're not going to be giving out Chromebooks that are worth $150. We're giving out Chromebooks or old computers that have a resale literally of under $5 or under $10. And they're not, you know, and even for the ones for parents, for classes, who knows when we're going to be able to do that again. I know I used to teach those classes for parents, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And I do think we might still have enough of with those 4,000 of the 2,000 that we might have throughout the district. I know it's a very difficult decision, but I think with what Mr. Rodriguez says and following the attorney's guidance to make sure that we handle it properly, that we give the best of what we have to our students. But if it was on a surplus list, if it was aimed for a surplus list, I recommend that we could give the surplus list of computers to our neighboring district. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Mr.
I
White?
do have one other question, Mr. Coronado.
Hold on, Ms. Earls.
Okay.
Mr. Leon, do you have anything?
I agree with the administration and Mrs. Brigham and Mr. Rodriguez. I mean, I know the need in the other districts. I've been over there. I know the people over there. And I have full confidence in Dr. Rico and Dr. Galavis. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Payan. All right.
I have a question of Steve, please. Steve, do we have to declare it surplus in the motion for it to be surplus?
Oh, good point.
Yeah, so the problem that you're dealing with and the reason that I'm recommending that you do that is because it is instructional technological equipment and the board is required under the legal policy to say
Exactly.
that it's no longer, well, but if it's no longer useful, then you fall into CI local and you accept the administration's recommendation, which I trust is correct, that it's not useful, it's not sellable. And so then it falls to CI and they can dispose of it at their discretion. I think Dr. Galavis just wanted to let you know how they were going to do it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. That was all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Earls. All right. Anybody else? Okay, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the donation of technological devices as recommended by administration and our legal counsel.
Does surplus have to be in there?
Yeah.
And-
Word surplus?
That would be the recommendation. So it's in,
And that are determined to be surplus by administration.
correct.
Please.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion by the board. Hearing none, we will proceed to pull the board, Sonia. Sonia? All right, I will pull the
Ms.
board.
Brigham?
Who, are we polling?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Mr. Coronado?
Yes.
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
Yes.
Mrs. Trout?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next agenda item.
Item C, discussion and possible action regarding COVID-19 preparation. Dr. Galaviz.
What I'd like to do is start with Mr. Payan's question and Ms. Carrasco. So if teachers, I guess, have underlying conditions, if they're fearful, I know you and our attorney have been talking. Would you like to answer Mr. Payan's question or address it, please? Martha Carrasco.
Martha or Steve?
Dr. Galaviz, I don't see Ms. Carrasco as a participant at the moment.
Okay, Steve, can you address that? I know you've been talking with Martha.
On the preparation for the request to be made to TA and the commissioner, or some other specific item?
No, about teachers that have underlying conditions, teachers that are fearful of coming back.
Okay. Yeah, so there are a couple of personnel issues related to that. The first is that an individual, unfortunately, who simply personally believes that he or she should not be in an area where they may be around children or groups of individuals and adults is not covered by the Coronavirus Relief Act. It's the FFCRA, Family First Coronavirus Relief Act. They do not get to individually decide whether they work or not. That's a bit of a problem because I understand it completely. You might have an individual who knows they have their own personal health conditions. They're aware of their own personal frailties, and they might say, well, I'm not comfortable coming back to school. I don't want to be in an instructional setting. I don't want to be around groups of children or adults. I'm not coming to work. Unfortunately, a person who takes that position without seeking medical advice or a summary from a doctor is not allowed to do that. So from a personnel standpoint, that person could be dealt with as abandoning their contract, breaching their contract, a whole different way of dealing with them, no different than somebody just refusing to work. Okay. So take that same person, assume that person goes to a doctor and a doctor certifies that that individual has a condition, that being exposed to children or groups of individuals as adults may pose a heightened risk to their health. They can secure a medical release. Again, that allows them to stay in good standing with respect to their employment and their contract. It doesn't necessarily generate compensation for them, though. Somebody who is off of work under that circumstance would only be entitled to 2 weeks of paid leave if they've not already used it. Under the law, the first 2 weeks of leave that somebody takes because of a COVID-related health condition certified by a doctor is paid leave. After that first 2 weeks, it's unpaid leave, unless they're dealing with childcare issues, and that's a whole other area of the law. We're not talking about that. We're talking about personal, individual belief of sickness or exposure to illness. Okay, those individuals would be on unpaid leave. Right now, I don't believe the district, and I don't know that any other districts are going to continue to extend payments to people who are not working under those circumstances. You did that for a while, but it covered everybody. You had the board resolutions in place where we were shut down and people were not working and they were being paid. I know from just communications with HR people in the education setting that some teachers and groups believe that if they're not working and they're considering it like a personal shutdown, they'll still be paid. I would say no to that. The district is not obligated to do that. It would be up to the board. It would be hard to continue to pay people who are off work simply because they believe they can't work or a doctor has certified that they can't work. They fall under traditional family and medical leave, FMLA leave, and they're entitled to take the time off, but it would be unpaid time off. And then HR would have to jump through all the hoops, replacing them, bringing them back if they still fall within the 12 weeks of approved leave, and finding somebody to fill their spots. So you have those issues that you're gonna have to deal with. And it really boils down to whether somebody is certified by a doctor to be able to stay off of work. Once that's done, we treat them no different than assume the pandemic didn't exist and somebody was being treated for cancer. And the doctor said, well, they have a depressed immune system. They're undergoing chemotherapy. They can't work. They need 6 to 8 weeks of leave. We'd put them on FMLA leave. It would be unpaid leave. Once they're released by the doctor to come back to work, they could come back to work. It's a little different with the COVID pandemic because it might not go away. And that you might have a group of people who don't ever come back to work. And that's going to be something from a staffing standpoint that HR and the district will have to address. I'm not sure how we're going to do that.
MC, would you like to add to that?
Yes, Dr. G, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, and again, it depends, you know, since things are changing from 1 minute to the next, you know, if we're gonna go online half and half, you know, it just depends on the situation. And as Steve has mentioned, it's going to be on an individual basis, you know, with medical certification. And so, you know, we want to be sensitive to the needs of our staff. Absolutely. And, you know, as Dr. Galaviz always says, health is first and foremost. But we also have to educate the students based on the directives from the commissioner or the governor. And so there still needs a job to get done. So we will look at every situation individually and of course work very closely with Steve. Steve has been a great asset to HR, and he's always available to help us with those difficult questions.
Mr.
All right.
Payat, did that answer your question?
Somewhat, because my other, to even elaborate a little bit more on it, because, there could be a number of personnel that are under those conditions. What then? It's not going to be one or two. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I think that's something that I've talked to Martha a lot about. Is that's a staffing issue. So where are you going to find replacements? How long are you going to need the replacement employees? We don't really know, but if you assume that every single district in the El Paso County area is going to have the same situation, you may have a shortage of qualified available substitutes for those issues. We don't yet know because everybody's not yet back open. Once we go back open and people are required to report to a campus for in-person instruction, assuming we do that, then I think we'll find out. The prediction range has been anywhere from a low of 10 to 15% of people won't come back to a high of 40%. I don't believe the 40%. I think it's probably closer into the 20s. We'll have people that they'll retire. That's one area we're seeing. People are saying, well, I'm just going to retire.
Right.
The second is going to be those folks that say, well, I'm not willing to go back to work, either because I choose not to, or they're going to get a doctor's certification and they can't come back. Assume that falls in a 15 to 20, 25% range across the board for every district. There's going to be a shortage of staffing available to cover those spots.
That's all I have. I'd like to entertain Mr. Coronado's point that he made earlier, that he wanted to address that it's this either all or nothing is not. I don't think somebody needs to challenge that.
Absolutely.
I have a question with that. While y'all have been talking, I'm wondering, did you get the public health planning guidance dated July the 7th, 2020 from the TEA? And it states very clearly in here that we don't all have to go to school. Have y'all read this?
Mm-hmm.
Attendance and enrollment.
Yep.
It says, given the number 2 on page 2, given the public health situation, student attendance may be earned through the delivery of virtual instruction. Number 3, any parent may request that their student be offered virtual instruction from any school system that offers such. School systems it says here what Mr. Rodriguez had said earlier, are permitted to limit the transitions between face-to-face and at home on the computer to only at the end of a grading period. I'm not sure why we're all riled up about this. Number 5, during the first 3 weeks of school, to facilitate an effective back-to-school transition process, school systems may temporarily limit access to on-campus instruction. As a result, some parents opting for their students to attend on campus may be required to start with remote instruction temporarily. And it goes on and on. It tells you how if you don't have internet access, you're going to get it. It's very clear on here. I'm not sure why we're all upset about that. This seems very open, and it also tells us that we're allowed to do as we will, that neither this summary document nor any local school systems reopening plans are subject to approval by any government entity.
I wonder if I could.
Go ahead,
I'm wondering why it sounds very clear in here that we have the option to do exactly what we had planned to do. Let everybody start remotely after Labor Day, begin face-to-face, which through our parent survey we saw in the elementary schools, with the exception of Davenport, the others very much want their kids to go back to school. I'm not clear as to why we're having a conflict here of putting them back to school. It looks to me like the TEA says we're pretty open to do what we're planning to do and what we want to do. Is this correct, Ms. Rocha?
Not exactly, Ms. Searles. This document is the guidance for possible ways to reopen and talking about mitigation. But there's another document, which is the FAQs. And in that document, which is states very plainly that they will fund you for virtual for 3 weeks.
Only.
They will continue to fund you for virtual for, let's say, the remainder of the year if you wanted to have that option for parents, but only if you offer a 5-day face-to-face option to parents. And so that's where we're having the issue, is because for our secondary schools, we had hoped to do, since their numbers are so great, we had anticipated doing a hybrid model.
Yes.
But now we are not, we could do a hybrid model, but that means we'd have to do 100% remote, 100% face-to-face, and then also support a hybrid model. So imagine if I'm a teacher right now, it's going to force me in a sense to be able to offer a child face-to-face, in addition, the remote, and then also keep track of kids that may just be coming in a couple of times a week. It's a huge burden on teachers. And so with remote, what we're thinking for secondary is that a student would come in face-to-face. One student, let's say Ms. Trout chooses to come face-to-face, she will follow her schedule. Ms. Brigham decides to do it remote. Her family thinks it's better to do remote. She would then have to log in for her class schedules at 8 o'clock for English, 9 o'clock for math. That would have to happen. So, but if you're looking on the employee side, the employee side is the teacher then has to stand and deliver to be able to meet the requirement of having face-to-face. And so that's, I think, the question that has been coming up with Mr. Payan is, what if teachers say, well, I feel I have these underlying conditions, I can't offer that face-to-face.
And have we done a teacher survey, Ms. Rocha, to see how that looks in our district?
I believe one was done by the Federation of Teachers that was done for members. And, you know, teachers are worried, they're afraid. But again, as we get closer, right now, we're pretty much safe until September 8th. But as we get closer, and if the cases go up, I mean, everything is so changeable. And I also want to add that face-to-face requirement that was given by the governor, by the commissioner, was only released on July 7th. That's just a week ago. It was last
Yes.
Tuesday. So that came to us as, whoa, we have planned to do this hybrid with the high schools because
Right, right.
they have so many kids, and it completely, we're not abandoning hybrid, but we're just trying to figure out how to do it, because now a teacher, if I'm the teacher, I've got to be able to help Miss Brigham, who's going to come in remotely throughout the day. And I also have to be face-to-face with Miss Trout, who's the student that's coming in following her schedule.
So our message to the commissioner and the governor is let us school. Let
Right.
us, because he's trying to put a in-class structure on a remote structure.
He's forcing it.
He's forcing this in-class system of 240 minutes into
Yep.
the remote, and it's not, you're putting an old system on a new system, a new paradigm. That doesn't work. Let us school.
It's ridiculous.
Stop trying to control it. And then you threaten funding on top of it. And so we're
But
all
why
running
am I not
around.
reading that? I've not read that in any of this on July 7th, 2020's plan.
It's on the.
Can you help me?
It's on the FAQs, ma'am.
I
and
guess
it's
I
on
didn't
page
get
4.
those.
Yeah.
It's on page 4.
Okay, I obviously didn't get the FAQs. I've got page 4, but mine is individuals confirmed or suspected with COVID, and it tells you what to do.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Brigham.
Ms. Searles, I believe what I read that too, but I do believe what they have changed the rules in the past, probably, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Galavis. They have changed the rules. The state of Texas and TEA have changed the rules in the past, probably 10 days at the most.
So this on the 7th is not the most updated
No,
information?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the
Hang
other
on one
thing,
second, Ms. Brigham. Is that right, Ms. Rocha?
The FAQ, if you go to the FAQ, there'll be yellow boxes that tells you when they have added new things. So it's a long running document, and every time they answer new questions or put new things down, they'll have a yellow box.
So July 7th was 3 weeks that they were only going to fund. Hence, all these big districts moved to the 17th. They did, and then now on Tuesday, now they rescind. The governor went back and said, no, we're going to pay. So it's like, what is it? And it's all about
Well, he said he's going to pay, so I guess that's what that one is. I mean, this just sounds exactly like what I must be confused in that I don't have July 7th is 10 days ago, 9 days ago, and this must not be correct. But everything I'm reading in here is so relevant. The American Academy of Pediatrics is giving their take. CDC's got their take. And the TEA is giving their take. And it all seems reasonable to me.
Well, the problem is that now they've required us to come back on September 7th or 8th after Labor Day. We have to offer the 5 days. That's the problem.
But you have to offer it. If nobody comes, what happens then?
Well, we have to offer it for whoever comes, whether it's one person or.
And from the looks of it, the only ones that are going to want to come are the elementary schools. Looking at, that's why I asked about the parent survey. It looks like, with the exception of Davenport, they pretty much want to stay home. But the other ones, I mean, Childress, 63% of Bill Childress wants to go back to school face-to-face. They don't even want hybrid. They want to go back to school.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
I feel like we've got to somehow listen to our parents in this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I
Mr.
agree.
Chair.
When parents want their kids to come, it's just how do we do it safely? How do we keep them socially distanced? So.
Well, it gives a whole thing in here how to do that. Who is our staff person who is responsible for the COVID concerns?
For our health, we're doing guidance with Dr. Reyes and with Bruno Vasquez.
Okay, perfect. But I mean, this has got how you develop on-campus activities, instruction, attendance and enrollment, how to prevent the virus from entering school. What do you do with the kid if it's got the virus? I mean, it even goes as much to say we need to, and I hope somebody will do this, that we need to check our water systems before the buildings are open, because the water's been sitting in those pipes too long since it's unused. I mean, it goes into every single little thing here. You got to wear masks at school. You have to have 6 feet apart for student desks. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we have a ton of room in our district, correct?
No.
There's more than plenty of room to have students 6 feet apart.
Not if everybody decides, more than 50% decide to come back, Ms. Searles.
Well, we only have half full at Childress. None of our campuses, I think, but Reyes and Damian are full.
Mr.
And I
Chair.
don't think they're all coming back. It looks like, 51 to 60% will be back. Not all of them.
All right, Ms. Searles, let me take Mr. Payan.
Thank you.
Mr. Payan?
How old is that survey, Ms. Rocha?
This survey was done prior to, I think it was in June, when we were offering the 3 options. At that time, we were offering hybrid, remote, and face-to-face. And so now we're going to assume that the students the parents that chose hybrid and face-to-face will be those numbers. So now we're working on developing a commitment form where parents commit to one or the other, so that way we can start building even better master schedules. And I think the concern is, you're right, there are some schools that have room, but then we don't know how many teachers will actually be coming back.
But that was before this huge surge in the state of Texas.
Yes, absolutely.
Would it behoove us to take another survey, Dr.
That's what I
Galaviz?
was going to say.
That's a great idea.
I think
More updated.
I think what we're going to do is send a commitment form weighing the options to parents. And so that way they can make an informed decision. We'll also let them know that once they decide, if they decide that they are remote and then want to go face-to-face, that they will have to wait till the end of the grading period. So that way we can know how many more students to expect in the classroom, so we can maintain that social distancing.
Sure.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Rodriguez.
Sal, were you done, Mr. Payan?
Yes, yes.
Just my concern here. One was the date on the survey, but the bigger issue here is, there's some underlying questions that need to be asked. If we look at that campus, it's probably one of our more economically disadvantaged. And so you're probably having parents wanting to make sure that they're in school. And I think those are the issues that, when looking at equity and looking across the district, is a concern, because of some of the underlying issues that aren't being addressed in regards to the whole situation. I think what we need to do is focus on the medical experts. There is one pediatrician group saying one thing, and then there's another pediatrician group saying another thing. And so we need to look at our local health authority and the guidance that they give us. What we need to be asking more is more flexibility and local control to make some of these decisions. Because it's not the same as it is in some of the smaller, let's say, school districts in the Panhandle that, probably aren't having to address these issues in regards to spikes or other issues. So we need to make sure that we're asking for more local control and flexibility. And the biggest frustration that I have is because if you look at what TEA recommended, right? They recommended us to go into an all-year calendar. And then once we went to an all-year calendar, they said, you know what, we're only going to give you 3 weeks. And now that they got pressure from other people, now they said, you know what, we'll go with the local health authority going that. So a lot of this stuff is fluid, but we need to make sure that we support and empower our administration to be able to make the right decisions, and at the same time push back TEA or any other organization, or whether it's the federal or the state government, to do what's right for our kids and our employees. We don't, you know, the July 7th guidelines that they provided talked about asynchronous and then an asynchronous, which asynchronous allows us more flexibility, and I believe that's where the district went, but they're still wanting to control the minutes and you know, tie us to funding, and we should be focusing on the emotional and social well-being of the kids,
Emotional.
and how we could really you know, either reinvent or provide value in regards to remote, hybrid, or even face-to-face. But the only thing TA is currently giving us is giving the parents those two options of remote learning or face-to-face, and they're not allowing districts to address some of the underlying issues that are happening. Am I correct in saying that, Ms. Rocha or Mr. Dr. Galavis?
You're
Yes.
correct in saying that, yes, but if you were to ask TEA or the commissioner, they would say, oh, well, you know, we're giving you the opportunity to do a hybrid model, but yet the hybrid model still has to be along with the 100% remote and the face-to-face, and it's very difficult to run 3 models at a school at the same time.
Let's be honest, they're just playing politics in regards
That's
to
right.
what they're trying to do, whether it's open. I bet, you know, it's sad, but I bet you after the November election, things will be completely different, and we'll be focusing on the right well-being of kids and our staff.
Well, let me go back to Ms. Searle's question about Dr. Reyes and Bruno Vasquez, because on July 27th, board, we're going to have a walkthrough because we want our campuses to be COVID ready. Like
Good for you.
you know,
Right.
so you're more than welcome to join us on that tour. We're going to have a model. And what does a social distancing classroom look like at the elementary, at the middle, and at the high school?
Great.
As you know, those high school class, I went in there to an algebra classroom and there's 30 chairs, 30 desks. So if you do social distancing,
It can't
I mean,
happen.
yeah, so what we're gonna do starting, we're gonna get our supplies. As you saw in your packet,
Mm-hmm.
you have, you saw the PPE gear that we're getting from the state
Yeah.
Yes,
for
sir.
each school district. I think, Bruno, that's coming August 1st, Dr. Reyes. I don't know if you want to expound on what we're doing to prepare when kids come in.
While they get Bruno on, I do want to let Ms. Searles know that Bruno did text me and they are 65% done and looking at the plumbing for
Great.
the issues. And then here's Bruno, he's on, I believe now.
Hi, Bruno. I asked about the water in the reopening plan from TEA, page 5, number 5. It says if a building has remained dormant for an extended period, we recommend you review CDC guidance on maintaining water system safety when buildings are unused for extended periods of time. And we've done that?
Bruno, you're on mute.
Is he telling it?
It's on mute.
He's
Does
on
he
there.
nod his head and we just
There we
figure the
go.
answer shows?
Okay, now he's back on mute again. Try again, Bruno. You're back on mute. There you go.
No?
No, sir, we cannot hear you.
Dr. Reyes?
I'm here, but I can't answer to the plumbing.
Oh, can you
Oh.
answer to the, how are our tests going? How,
So we did,
Dr.
we
G,
did-
before we move on, Mr. Chair, could I add something about what Mrs. Searle she was talking about?
What point?
But for example, I'm talking about the water and the water fountains. My water commission is recommendable to even test the water now that the buildings are dormant is the best time to test the water from all the water fountains before the kids, they drink it. In other words, it needs to be more than 1050 to a month when the water is right over there directly to the water fountains. That's when they're going to bring and take the test. And that's when the most accurate results that we're going to have to know the quality of water that our kids are drinking. But to be like in those times is the best time to do it right now. If in vacations or minimum 10 days before, to take the water sample directly from the water fountain. And we need to test it in order to know the quality or what kind of bacteria our kids are drinking.
Okay, and we'll let Bruno answer to that.
Yeah, it will be recommendable. Thank you.
Is Bruno on?
He's on, but I don't see that.
He's on mute.
No, he's not on mute. Bruno, we just can't hear you. Can you turn up your volume?
Maybe that's what it is.
That's all it is.
And if you allow me, is Mr. Chair, a question for Dr. Galaviz. In Norwest Early College, how is this going to be? Because we don't have enough rooms, right? We don't have enough portables to measure the social distance. How are we going to work on that?
But we have it anywhere. Any high school.
It's not a traditional high school as we know, and so their calendar will remain the same as the one they passed earlier. Miss Ariano has already reached out to parents asking them to sign, and the students to sign a commitment form of what they're going to be doing. A majority of their stuff will be done remotely, but in cases like for individual things, we're really asking parents to reach out to the principal and the assistant principal there to answer questions for parents. And because it's such a different type of school, some students are being regulated by EPCC, some by UTEP, and of course the ones that are underclassmen who are taking more on-site classes. So, but yes, they do have a plan, and they're working with that, Ms. Searles. I mean, Ms. Trout.
Ms. Trout, can I respond to you?
Yes,
I
please.
saw Miss Ariano's plan. I read her plan. It is so amazing. I couldn't even believe it.
Hello, can you hear me?
It was,
Yes.
yeah, hi, Bruno. But it was really good.
Hi.
Look for it and read it, Miss Trout.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Searles.
Hi, I'm sorry, I was muted. I couldn't unmute myself.
There you go.
All right. So I was just saying how we are in the middle of reviewing the plumbing system, but not just the plumbing system, all our other building systems. You're right, having a building unoccupied and unattended is one of the most damaging things that you can do to it, actually. We're lucky to have a master plumbing in our ranks, and he's being able to verify and observe and report some conditions that needed to be reported. We are not anticipating use of any drinking fountain as we return in person, even after a couple of weeks. We have been talking to the principals, and we have been recommending plans of having small batches of water bottles for the time that the students are going to be there. So the first thing that we are doing is we're shutting down the water supply to the water fountains, and then we will be providing signage or other devices to advise that these are not available.
Okay.
The HVAC system, we're also replacing all of the filters. These are things that we typically do anyways, but we're paying special attention and making sure that additional cleanup and additional service calls are made to our rooftop units for the air conditioning system. Fire sprinkler systems, fire alarms, we're also in the process of developing, following additional checklists provided by the National Fire Protection Association to make sure that all of our systems are working properly.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. What
Thank you.
about in the cafeterias? You run the water through those because they'll have to use water, even if the kids don't drink. The cafeterias will probably have to use water.
It's my understanding that the cafeteria staff, Mr. Macias has two dedicated staff members that deal with maintenance issues in the cafeterias. And it is my understanding that they have been following also some sort of protocol to ensure that water is not stagnant.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Bruno. I appreciate it.
So I do have another to Mr. Chair. Bruno, the cafeteria water is being tested before they use it. Are they prepared the meals with the same water, or they have another like a filter water in order to use it? And it's been tested as well in all campuses?
Yes, I believe that a few months ago, we sent a notice to the board regarding the yearly testing that we perform for our water system. And it came under well under the parameters set by, I want to say it's FEMA. Or one of the agencies that reviews these parameters. So yes, we tested and it's safe.
And it's safe to drink. Okay, in the cafeteria. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
So, sorry, Mr. Chair. One of the things, let me take off my mask real quick, is that in your packet, I put some letters by other ISDs petitioning to the governor about, again, I think at some point we need to worry about safety as you can, and not worry about the STAR test. I know it's important because kids have to learn.
I agree.
But at some point, I think, and hopefully with the news with the vaccine, we'll go a lot faster. But I think right now we need to worry about our kids' health and our staff health, our teachers' health. And so I would like to send out a letter to the, as you know, you saw that letter to Round Rock. You saw I think the Big Nine, as they call it, Dallas ISD, Fort Worth, but just something out there to let them know. But at some point, you know, one of the things we teach in school is teaching kids to be courageous and to stand. And as Mr. Payan was saying, you know, we have to do something because we can't allow the health of our community to become politicized, because now we're putting people at risk.
Absolutely.
So, again, I'm at Davenport. The librarian just left the room. And as you can tell, she's getting ready. We're getting ready for school. She's counting the computers. We'll send, and again, I'm just looking at the classroom. Miss Heimer just texted me. She has a model classroom already set. We want kids to come back to school. We want our teachers to come back to school, but at what cost?
Right.
And so again, I'd like to entertain that for the board to think about. I know Mr. Coronado, you spent some time with some board presidents last night on a meeting.
Oh, really?
I did, with some board presidents from the region here and from outside our region as well. And they all are, you know, saying that we want to be flexible. The problem is that TEA isn't letting us be flexible unless the city county health department steps in.
Right. That's exactly right.
And so what some of the other districts are saying is what if, you know, the city county health says, okay, everybody go back to school, like under TEA rules. And we've determined that, you know, either there's still a problem in the community with the infections. What do we do then? And some of these counties are going to have those issues where they're going to have these city county health departments that are in full step with the governor and with the commissioner that, my God, we're going to send them back to school. And so some of the districts are thinking about getting their own medical director. So that if their medical director says, no, it's not safe to go back, we need to do distance learning and we can do it this way. That's what we're trying. That's all I'm saying is we need to have TEA give us that flexibility that it's not, okay, everybody 5 days a week, or we have to depend on the city county health department to say no. So it's either all or not. And that's the problem. They're not letting us have control over that. And it's going to be different for different counties and different regions. And TEA is just not allowing for that. And so I don't know. The answer is that we need to either send letters to the governor and the commissioner, or we need to get in step with our teachers and go to Austin and protest that TEA is not letting us do what we need to do.
I'll protest.
Help me with this though, Mr.
Yes.
Coronado. I mean,
Yes.
I'm looking at this, I'm reading it with my own eyes. Attendance and enrollment, page 2, number 2. Given the public health situation, student attendance may be earned through the delivery of virtual instruction. Any parent, this is number 3, any parent may request that their student be offered virtual instruction from any school system that offers such instruction. That's giving us the flexibility.
Yeah, Ms. Searles, what you're not understanding is that they're telling us you have to offer all the plans, and you have to offer them to go back 5 days if they want to. That's for everybody. We can't do that. We've got this plan and people want to go hybrid, and we also want to do the face-to-face with a full hybrid. I mean, not the full hybrid, the full remote, the hybrid, and the 5 days.
Right.
Marnie's
But we
just told
can
you
do that.
it's
They've
not
given us the
feasible.
ability to do that,
But Marnie's
but
just
not everyone has to. And it seems like if we took the survey of how many teachers want to teach, how many update our parent survey, how many parents want their kids in school, that we would know the answer to that and say, you know, we can't do that. We can't do that. Or, oh
I
gosh,
agree.
only 40% want to, and okay, this covers, we've got our flexibility. 60% want at home. They got it. They can take their little, we spent $5 million getting them computers. They can take their computer, they can stay at home. But there's another 40%, they want to come back to school. I think that we've been given that flexibility, but what we've been told, if I'm hearing properly, is that open school, but not everybody has to go.
No, I understand
so-
that. We have to offer that and
That's correct.
and the remote. It's a
And I
problem
think-
for the
Exactly.
teachers. You're not understanding the problem for the teachers.
If I may just interject, I think what at Canateo that we're looking for is we're looking for the option to be able to do 100% remote and 100% hybrid. And right now there's not an option just to offer those two, because with the hybrid, we could bring kids in slowly. Kids would come in 1 or 2 days and then be home for remote. And that's where we're not having the option. By having to support 3 options, that's where our hands are really tied, because it just almost becomes an impossibility for us to support 3 options. We can easily support 2 options, but one of the options has to be a 5-day face-to-face. And we would like in Canateo to have the option to do 100% remote and a 100% hybrid, to be able to bring kids in slowly, that maybe kids would come in for 2 days a week. And that's where we haven't been able to get that flexibility. And so I just want to say that.
Thank you, Ms. Rocha. I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez.
But not only that, once you get that, then you have to wait for the end of the period. So they've given the parents an option, those 2 options. What ends up happening if in between we have a spike, we don't have a state, a county or city order, and yet parents are wanting to take those kids out, and then, you know, this is just very fluid, because what if there were face-to-face, the spike hits, in the middle of the period, and they just stop taking their kids to school, and then we end up getting dinged. This is the reason.
I don't
why
think
we need
we'd get
flexibility.
dinged. That would cover us under the
No,
virtual.
Under the current guidelines, no. You only have two options within that grading period. You go with one or you go with the other in regards to what I saw July the 7th. And the thing here is we need to make sure we look at the data. Yeah, right now we're not seeing any cases in regards to kids below a certain grade, but they haven't been in school since March. What data are we looking at? And so we have to make the right decision for what's in the best interest of our kids and our employees, because I was talking to my colleagues in Arizona, and you have teachers having to go make wills because they're scared of not being able to survive this. I mean, there's some serious issues that we have to look at as policymakers and making sure we do what's right for kids. And I think, the state and the federal government are playing politics with it right now, not looking at the overall issues.
That's
And
true.
we need to ask for flexibility and local control and issues like the STAR testing as well as the A3F. So I want to give some type of parameters in regards to that for our superintendent, Dr. Galavis and Steve Blanco, to help work on some of these issues with the board president. So if we need to send out a letter, we're not having to have a board meeting to send out that letter, but to be more proactive instead of reactive when TA has been, I don't know what to say.
Remember we're online.
I liked what Marnie said real specifically a moment ago, that we would like to have the flexibility not to have our hands tied to one or the other, that we're happy to open school. We know that our parents want school opened. Overwhelmingly, the parents want their children in school. The American Academy of Pediatrics, and I'm going to read it word for word, says that the COVID risk must be balanced with the need for children to attend school in person, given that lack of physical access to school leads to a number of negative consequences, placing children and adolescents at considerable risk of morbidity and in some case mortality. And we all know, we've been through enough trainings to know that the safest place for every kid is school. And the happy place for every kid is school. So we got to keep that into consideration. Our parents are asking for it. And we have to keep that door open, please.
Right, Mr. Payan.
I'd like to argue against that, because I understand the issue of the socialization of the youngsters that are missing out on school. Put it in context of the fact that some of these kids are going to contract something. And you got to be realistic about this. We're on an international border, okay? The trafficking back and forth of people. And the thing is that some of these kids are going to come home. They're going to get and not only their parents, their grandparents, their sister, their brothers that are not in school yet. It's going to happen. Make no bones about it. And the ones that are going to suffer the most are the most vulnerable, the senior citizens that are taking care of these kids. Be realistic. That's all we need to ask the governor and the commissioner. You're going to face a bigger issue when some of these parents with underlying conditions and the grandparents that are up in their age. There's a lot of grandparents taking care of these kids.
The kids.
Believe me. I mean, don't blind yourself to this issue. The reality of today's society is parents not only have to go to work, but I understand the issue of parents having to go to work. But the ones that are taking care of these kids after school, even during school, are the grandparents. And it's going to get worse.
Yep.
I mean, we're kidding ourselves by saying that kids' safest place is at school. Come on. Be realistic. You know, we lock down the schools when an active shooter comes around, or there's a situation like that. Now we've got an issue where we're going to put our kids at risk by involving them and exposing them to a coronavirus that is going to decimate the family structure. And it's going to happen. I hate to be this way, it's an alarmist, but reality is, and everybody's telling us, the president of the American Federation of Teachers is telling us, you want to close the bars and the restaurants, but you want to open the schools?
That's true. It's
Come
crazy.
on. You know,
I like what
understand
you
having-
said, Mr. Payan, maybe in
No,
the
let me
letter.
finish. Let me finish. I didn't interrupt you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Oops.
People need to understand that people like myself, my wife, my neighbors, they pick up these kids. They wait for them for the school bus to drop them off. They're the grandparents. They're parents with underlying conditions. And it's going to come back and bite us. The safest place for kids nowadays in this era, in this situation, is not the school. You're putting them at risk. I don't know how we can argue that with a commissioner or anybody else. I'd send Monica and Dr. Galaviz and Marnie down to the state and tell them, you know what? You're crazy. As I want to put that as bluntly as I can, because
Absolutely.
I'm the one that's going to have to face that issue. I mean, how many of you have kids going to school and you pick them up and take care of them after school, realistically?
I do.
How many of you?
Me, I
I
do.
do. I do. My daughter.
After school, you go, grade school kids.
Me, I do.
Exactly.
So do
And you know
I.
what we're talking about. You know
Grade school
exactly
kids.
what we're talking about.
Board President,
I
we
don't
have
know how,
several
I
comments
don't
from.
know, this
Whenever you're
issue
ready.
that the safest place for kids nowadays is at school. I mean, please give me a break.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on, Ms. Brigham. I think we
Sure.
have comments from the community. Ms.
Oh, please.
Sonia?
All righty, sir, and then I apologize, there's several, so I'm gonna try and get them in order.
All right, go
This is
ahead.
from Dina Madrid. Awesome idea, Dr. Galaviz. Kimberly Garabay Rueda. I agree with Mrs. Trout. Jose Ventura, Mrs. Trout, very good idea. Diana Madrid, good point, Mrs. Trout. This is from Katie Guerra. How are they going to be useful for another district if not for ours? And I apologize, I'm just getting these in right now, so this is actually about computers, I believe. WG Woods, how can we make a commitment, but you can't even commit on a calendar? Aida Moreno, why not have teachers who can go in for medical reasons teach online? Have the teachers on campuses focus on the
Yeah.
kids who can go in. Jose Ventura, teachers can still use local and state leave if they have any per your policy. Giselle Garcia Fridas, I think as a parent and educator, we would like to go back to school. Yes, we are apprehensive as to what to do and when it will happen. Dina Madrid, will teachers be teaching remote learning students live at the same time teaching classroom students and allowing questions from both in-class and online students, i.e. live streaming? Some parents like myself, for the lack of childcare, would like our kids to go back to school. We are apprehensive as to how this will work. Elementary kiddos are all about hugging. Thank you all. And I apologize, and I don't mean to say this, but can Liza or Dr. Galaviz read the ones that are in Spanish?
Sure. Liza?
I believe there's one in Spanish, Liza, or possibly two.
Who's on the PIO CISD mic?
Sorry, I was muted. The one question I see or statement in Spanish.
Diarios.
Diarios de una mamá y cómo pueden tomar una decisión de algo que no tienen primero. This is regarding the computer, so hagan inventario, digan cuántas se van a donar y cuántas no. Se me hace innecesario esta discusión.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rodriguez.
just real quick, going back to some of the comments Sal made and Ms. Searles, in regards to the American Academy of Pediatrics, if you look at some of the issues, they've actually gone against some of the guidelines from CDC and consider to lean into a certain way. And I think what we need to do is have local control and flexibility. When you're looking at the issues that are currently happening, it's more of communities of color, of communities of economically disadvantaged, and it affects, not only does it affect our students, Sal talked about him picking up his grandkids, but look at that. I mean, it's not just the parents, it usually is grandparents and other people that probably have underlying conditions in our community. And so not only is it affecting students or our community, but it's also affecting our teachers. And we need to make sure that we're doing what we can with, and I think sometimes we have to push against some of these guidelines, whether it's TEA, whether it's some of the others, but I want to give that ability to Dr. Galavis and Steve and the board president to write these letters, especially for the flexibility and local control right now and the STARS and A through F testing, whatever else may need. And then just make sure you provide that in our Friday packet. But we need to be able to take an active stance to whether it's to follow some of the guidelines or to do or to go against some of the guidelines if we don't deem that's in the best interest of our kids. So that's going to be my motion.
Second.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Brigham.
Second.
I agree with the letter and given the administration and yourself the ability to look at that. And on the topic of the STAR testing, Dr. Galavis, I think if you could put in that letter, with everything in the buzzwords is the social emotional, of the things of our kids, attributes of our kids. And this is a very traumatic time. And I can only speak, like Sal, you were talking, I can only speak, let me speak through my grandkids, what they said. They said, Nana, how are you gonna take care of us when we're playing PE and we're doing all that other stuff? We're gonna have to come home by ourselves. And there's gonna be lots of kids coming home by themselves. So what I think too, and the last thing these kids need is the additional stress of the testing. I think it's absolutely unconscionable that we're acting like nothing has changed. This is a pandemic. This is something they haven't even written books about because it before the ink's dry, or even before it can be posted on the internet, something's changed, either a flare up or something like that. So if you could add, Mr. Chair, the social and emotional well-being of the students, that we need more flexibility in the coming up with schedules that meet our district needs, not the state of Texas, but our district needs, and the social and emotional considerations for the added stress for the parents and the children for the tax testing. We can do other things. We can do to see where the kids are. We don't have to do, so what I'm saying is we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying no testing, but we can do, but the thing is to add those other things is just unconscionable. So if you could add that to your letter, I would appreciate it.
Right.
So at some time, board letters, I guess I'm tired of letters. There's a concept called truth to power.
I know, but I don't want you arrested.
Well, that's all right. I'll have Dr. Reyes. She can, Congressman. So, but at some point we have to stand. So I'm okay with continuing what we put out as far as hybrid. And if you don't pay me, then let's sue them. Let's do what we need to do for our kids. And rather having some guy in Austin and some guy in DC or some lady in DC telling me how to do what we need to do. If you want to hold me accountable for the test, then hold me accountable. Give me a window for a test and we'll make sure they're ready. But do not let me put the health and safety of our kids and our staff at arms. So I'm okay with continuing and telling, just like California did it. California said, we're going all on. We're going Los Angeles, San Diego. They're not listening to our Department of Ed secretary. You know, you can threaten me with, rather than threaten me with funding, you know, help us out. Help me find a solution. Here is our solution for our community. Allow us to do that.
Absolutely.
So I'm okay, board. I'm also requesting maybe in 2 weeks, because it might change, July 28th, that we have another special board meeting to talk more in depth, and hopefully we'll have more about the devices and more about Dr. Reyes can talk and Bruno, and that's okay with the board.
Thank you.
That'll be fine. I
Excuse
do
me,
think,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Payan.
one more point, you know, and again, going back to, you know, we need to hold our state representatives to task on this. They've been absent. You know, Joe Moody, Cesar Blanco, the rest of them. And somebody needs to take them to task, because, you know, they've got to stand up for us at some point or another. They're absent. You don't hear anything from them. The only one I hear is maybe Blanco, but Joe Moody, I haven't heard anything from him about anything. And somebody, we need you and the superintendent or Mr. Blanco, go take him to task for this. You know, it's unconscionable that they sit up there and they don't do anything.
Right.
And I agree with Dr. Galaviz. You know, we need to take a stand. Either, you know, hey, this is the way we're going to go. Sue me, or we'll sue you, and let's get it done. We've got to protect our kids and our community.
I agree. And that's exactly what I told some of the board presidents yesterday at the meeting, is that, you know, we can't just sit back and say, okay, TA, we'll be flexible. We'll try to do what we can under your guidelines. No, it's the safety of our children's at stake. So we do need to take a stand. And my proposal was, you know, we need to get our teachers together with us, and we need to start either doing a protest or do our own plan, and then say, okay, you think you're gonna do that? We're gonna file a lawsuit. I bet a lot of districts would join, and there'd be a consortium of districts that would join in a lawsuit to help with attorney's fees to make sure that they give us this flexibility.
Mr. Chair? So can you put that in the letter? Or can you just say, no, remember how we have to present to TEA? We have to present, cannot we just present to TEA what Dr. Galaviz just said and what you're just saying and what Sal's saying? Can't we just say because remember, we have to submit it. So can't we just submit to TEA the hybrid model and the online model? Can't we just submit it? And we're saying we're doing this for the best. We're following directive that they told us it had to be submitted. They have to look through 1,000 some odd people's plans and submit what we just said, the 2 recommendations of the administration. Can we just do that?
That sounds wonderful, Ms. Brigham.
What I was going to add is just in the motion to allow for the district to start filing the lawsuit if there needs to be one.
No.
Well,
I'd caution against that. I mean, we need to really come back to the board and have a thorough discussion on options and causes of action and whether or not we can even do that. I think it's premature to just say we're going to go forward and do that.
I'm not saying go forward with the lawsuit, but to actually give that, I guess within the letter, like Annette said, that if we're not, this is a tool that we have.
Solution.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't we wait until November and then we could file a lawsuit, but wait until November, I guess, right?
Why wait for November? I mean, our kids are hurting now.
But right now, Mr. Chair, we are supposed to send a plan to TEA. I'm just recommending we send the plan that our administration has come up with, those two models. Period. And you know what? Send it off. Let's start school and let them come at us. And then we'll be ready. We have more time to prepare. And, you know, and we know what's important for our community, like Sally.
And this is what's important to me.
Tell me.
I have to look in this young lady's eyes and say it's safe.
Yes.
Or this librarian at Davenport.
Right. And then, yes, you're right, sir.
There she is.
Hi. So, anyways, that's my recommendation. You know what? Let's play their game. It's absolutely, it has all been politicized. And I think TEA gave us a mandate saying that we have to submit what we were going to do. Let's submit what we're going to do based upon the administration's recommendations. Monty, what you had said, the original two plans. Let's go in there. Let's let's start school like that. And you know what? Who knows what's going to happen next week?
Thank you, Boston.
No one knows. No one knows.
All right.
And that's my, so how do I put that in a motion? Want me to motion? Did Mr. Rodriguez, did you
There's
already?
already a first and a second. I don't know if it needs to
I
be
could
amended,
amend it to
verified.
include that. Steve, would that work?
I think so. I just want to be careful. We're not moving forward with litigation at this time against
No,
anybody.
We're not doing that,
I
Steve.
know that. Okay.
No, we're letting them know that we're open to litigation if they're not willing to do what's right for our kids.
But I think,
Okay.
I think Steve, what it is we were supposed to, and Monty jump in, and we're supposed to submit to TEA the models that we're going to propose. So what I'm saying to administration, submit it. We're following the guidelines of the law that they gave us. They haven't changed that yet. Let's submit that. Once we submit that, and we're going to submit our plan, kind of Teal's plan.
Our plan.
Yes, what's right for us. And let's put that in with those hybrid models, Ms. Marnie. Okay? And let's see what TA, because they have to look at 1,050 of them or 1,100 of them. So
If I could be clear, Miss Brigham, I will add that to the plan, but the plan that they're requesting is whether our virtual will be synchronous or asynchronous. They're not asking us about our 5-day plan or face-to-face because at this point, they're thinking that you have to do it. So, but I will add that as an addendum to our asynchronous plan. So they do have a record of it.
thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank
All
you, Dr. Alves.
Steve, Dr. Galaviz, and we'll get together on writing the letter that the board is proposing.
Yes.
I move that, how do we move that we make a vote? I move that
Will
make a
we
vote.
read it before it is sent?
Exactly.
I think we can depend on the administration to take care of that so we can get it off as soon as possible. Avoid any delays and get it done.
I agree.
Steve, you're not going to write any threatening talk about we're going to sue them, I hope.
I think we need to threaten them because it depends on the safety and the health of our kids.
I won't threaten anyone, so I
Well,
won't be
They're
signing that.
threatening us.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Can someone clarify the motion, please? And there's already a first and a second, so it has to be amended, I believe.
Right. It's
Oh, go
to
ahead.
be able to have the ability to write letters to address some of the concerns that have been brought up. And Steve has the other language in regards to giving them options if they don't let us provide the best option for their kids.
Okay.
All right. So that's
I
an
think I
amendment
second.
motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second before the board on this agenda item. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Sonia, please pull the board.
Yes, sir. Ms. Brigham,
Yes.
Mr. Coronado,
Yes.
Mr. Payan,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Searles,
Yes.
Mrs. Trout,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. That takes us to the next agenda item.
Yes, sir. Item 3, adjournment.
By unanimous consent of the board, we were
Adi-
adjourned. Board, we will send
Adios.
out information about the next special board meeting for the date that we were supposed to have our regular board meeting, which we don't ever have in July, but we'll do that. All right, everybody,
you.
everybody stay safe.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
fun. Thank you. Y'all be safe.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Galavis, board. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lori. Bye.
Bye, Ms.
everyone.
Trout.
Take
Goodbye.
care, everybody. Take care.
Bye. Bye, Sergio.
Bye, everybody. Take care. We'll see you-
Bye.
Take care.